Man, now that I'm done recording for that Infect video, I can actually talk about decks that don't make me really upset as a person. So let's go ahead and talk about NIV Mizzet again. Now, I know I already did a video about playing NIV Mizzet before. That was NIV Mizzet the Guild Pact, but this time we're going to be playing NIV Mizzet Reborn. So this is a different flavor of 5-color deck, but nonetheless, it is a very, very powerful one, and you should definitely give a deck like this a shot. If you remember the Omnath deck I built for 5-color, you kind of already know the angle we're going to be going here, but this one's going to involve a lot more draw power. But let's go ahead and talk about NIV Mizzet Reborn, why we're playing him, what he does. When he enters the battlefield, reveal the top 10 cards of your library. For every color pair, choose a card that is exactly those colors, and then grab each one of those cards. Put the chosen cards into your hand, and the rest on the bottom of any order. So what does this really mean? This means that you grab, say, an Azorius card and a Golgari card, and then you're able to grab an Orzhov card and a Boros card, but you can't grab 2 Azorius cards or 2 cards that happen to both be Orzhov. You must be grabbing one of each color pairing. So if you're very lucky, you'll get 10 cards. That's probably never going to happen. It's going to be more like 4 or 5. And having just an easy draw 5 stapled to our commander means that we get to go really, really fast through our deck, getting all kinds of utility spells to win the game on our terms. So that is what we are going to be doing today with this Spell Slinger 5-color deck. And of course, you know it's a 5-color deck, so we're going to have to make some budgetary options available for us since we are running that, because this is a $15 deck, which means, as usual, the deck has a $15 within a few cents price limit, and then the commander can be $1 or less. And we've managed to get this deck built for $15.96. 72 cents of that was in NIV Mizzet Reborn himself. So within about 20 cents of the $15 budget, let's go ahead and talk about what we are doing with this deck. Let's go ahead and see what our ramp package looks like, because of course we are trying to get 5 colors out, which is very, very difficult in any budget deck in general. So we have a 10-card ramp package beginning with Letter of Acceptance. It can grab a mana of any color, and then you sack it to draw a card. Mere Convert can get a mana of any color for paying 2 life. Road and Ruin can be an instant that gets you a basic land on the battlefield, or can blow up a creature, dealing damage equal to the number of lands you control. Then we have Greenside Watcher, which lets us untap target gate. Yeah, that's right, we're building another Gates deck, everybody. We yet again are building a deck that lets us go 5-color on a budget, which means the next card is Navigation. Or grab 2 basic lands from the deck or gate cards, put one into your hand and the other onto the battlefield, and then shuffle. Then we have Honored Heirloom. It can grab 1 mana of any color, or you can use it to make sure that somebody's graveyard is taken care of. Then we have the Goblin Electromancer. All of our instants and sorceries will cost 1 less to cast. This deck is running 8 sorceries and 26 instants, so this is discounting quite a lot of cards in our deck. Command Sphere can grab a mana of any color, and then we can sack it to draw a card. Ornithopter of Paradise can grab a mana of any color, and then Growth Spiral is a 2-color card, so it works for our deck's game plan, and we can draw a card and then put a land from our hand onto the battlefield. Now, you notice that some of our ramp is a little bit specific. Let's go ahead and talk about why that is. Normally, we would try to run a lot more grabbing of basic lands, but since we are running a gate deck, we actually have access to a lot of gate fetching cards, starting with Open the Gates. Search your library for a basic land or a gate and put it in your hand. Explore the Underdark, get the initiative, which means you will get a basic land out of your deck, and then grab 2 basic lands or gate cards, put them onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffled. This will automatically set you up with both the important gates of the deck, which are Gond Gate and Baldur's Gate. District Guide will let you get a basic land from your deck or a gate from your deck into your hand. Gatekeeper Vine will get a gate from your hand and put it in gate from your deck and put it in your hand. Sylvan Scrying gets any land from your deck and puts it in your hand. Usually this is going to be Gaunt Gate or Baldur's Gate. And then Circuitous Route will get any gate or basic land from our deck onto the battlefield tapped. So our ramp section it looks like a 10-card ramp section. It's actually closer to a 15-card ramp and land selection section. But now we need to talk about the next part of the deck. It's probably the most important part. Honestly, this is the most important part of this deck, hands down, no questions asked. This is the NIV Mizzet is #1 section of the deck. That's right, this is basically NIV Mizzet Tribal. We are trying to run every NIV Mizzet that cares about spells in our deck, starting with NIV Mizzet Supreme, a very underused commander since we started getting more versions of Mizzet and just more 5-color commanders in general. My boy has flying and hexproof from monocolored, and every instant and sorcery in your grave that is exactly 2 colors has jumpstart. If you want, you can put this guy in the command zone and make him the commander of the deck anyway, but I chose the other Mizzet because he draws us 4 to 5 cards every time he comes onto the board. Then we have NIV Mizzet the Firemine. When you draw a card, he deals 1 damage to any target, and then you can tap him to draw a card. Then we have NIV Mizzet Draco Genius. He deals damage to a player to let you draw a card. You can also pay 2 to deal 1 damage to target creature or player. And we have NIV Mizzet Parun. When you draw a card, he deals 1 damage to any target. When a player casts an instant or sorcery spell, you draw a card. So, going to go ahead and let you know right now, there are a bunch of cards that go infinite with NIV Mizzet Parun. If you really want to take this deck into degenerate categories, you can run those cards like Curiosity and Aphrodite Eye, which will burn everybody down very, very quickly. I have chosen not to use them in this deck because I want to focus on the spell slinging, and of course, because of budget, we don't have Maze's End as another option in the deck. But regardless, NIV Mizzet Parun, wonderful, wonderful card, and we get to play basically NIV Mizzet Tribal. But the next important place that we got to talk about is our draw section, the dedicated draw, and they are all multicolored with one exception here, starting with Eureka Moment. Draw 2 cards, put a land from your hand into the battlefield, another basic ramp spell that also draws us cards. It also happens to be Simic colors. Sphinx's Insight can let you draw 2 cards and then gain 2 life if it's cast during your main phase. And of course, because it's Azorius, it counts towards NIV Mizzet's draw. Dihada's Ploy, draw 2 cards, discard a card, and it's got Jumpstart, so we can cast it more than once. And then the boy from the very first 5-color video that I made, Omnath, Locus of All. If you would lose unspent mana, that mana becomes black instead. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, look at the top card of your library. If it has 3 or more different colored mana symbols, or 3 colored mana symbols at all, put it in your hand, and then add 3 mana of any color combination onto it as well. We are basically keeping this in here as a long-standing draw engine that will help us with our win con by storing up unspent mana. But again, you can take him and make him the leader of your own 5-color deck if you want. That video is an earlier video on the channel, and it is the $15 deck that my partner Saki has chosen to run herself, and it is a nasty piece of work. But let's go ahead and talk about the next important section of the deck. As with every deck I have ever built, we have a very thick removal section because I think it's important to make sure that other players understand that you are the one that gets to decide which cards are played, not them. Nature's Chant can blow up an artifact or enchantment, and it is 2 colors, which is why we're running it over something like Return to Nature. Closing Statement costs 5 usually, but if we play it in our end step, it costs 3 instead. Blow up any creature or planeswalker, then put a 1/1 counter on a creature you control. Agony Warp, we can make a creature get -3/-0 or -0/-3. We can use it as a combat trick if our commander's having trouble dealing with something, and it's also just a way to get rid of indestructible creatures. So just a very, very good card, and because it is Dimir, it is another card that we can get out of our commander. Then we have Augur Spree. Target creature gets +4/-4 until end of turn. We can use this on our own commander to help it close in commander damage on people because it is a flying commander that can get in for lots of damage very easy. Or we can use it as a kill card. Just make something take 4 to its toughness and then it's out. Dramatic Rescue. Return a creature to its owner's hand and you gain 2 life. You can go ahead and use this to protect your own stuff or use it offensively to get something that is problematic off the board and make somebody cast it again on their next turn. Final Payment. Blow up any creature, and if you sacrifice a creature when you sorry, I'm reading the card incorrectly because it is late. Final Payment says, as an additional cost to cast it, pay 5 life or sack a creature, and then you get to blow up any target creature. Utter End can exile any non-land permanent for 4, and Despark can get rid of any permanent with mana value 4 or greater. Mortify can blow up a creature or an enchantment. Then we have its brother Putrefy, which can blow up any artifact or creature. Hostage Taker can be used to steal something from our opponent, and it does have an ETB for that effect, which is very, very important. We will talk about that in a minute. This is basically my substitute for Meteor Golem, because as we are playing a deck that cares a lot about color combinations, this is one of the first decks you guys are going to see me build that is not running my boy. Then we have Orzhov Charm, one of the worst formatted charms to have ever been printed. Return a creature we control to its owner's hand, or blow up a creature and you lose life equal to its toughness, or return a creature card with converted mana cost 1 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So we can use this to have our commander dodge a board wipe. We can use this to make sure that we are blowing up any creature, and the life that we lose from it is inconsequential because we're playing commander. And of course, because it's an Orzhov removal spell, it counts, like everything else does, towards our commander's grabby hands mechanic. Is it Charm? Counter any non-creature spell unless its opponent pays 2. Or we can deal 2 damage to a creature, or we can draw 2 cards and discard 2 cards. Lots of modes, lots of things it can do. Then we have Dimir Charm. We can either counter a sorcery spell, or destroy a creature with power 2 or less, or look at the top 3 cards of a player's library, put one back into the top, and then get rid of the rest of the cards in a player's graveyard. If somebody plays a Vampiric Tutor, we can use Dimir Charm to just fuck them up. Absorb is a bog standard basic counter spell, but it does happen to have Azorius colors, so it works out really well. It also gives us incremental life gain. And Rakdos Charm. I cannot tell you the amount of times you will use this to turn a token player into Swiss cheese. This card says you can exile all cards from a person's graveyard, or blow up an artifact, or each creature deals 1 damage to its controller. So let's say you've got that person who does the Ivy Lane Denizen Scurry Oak combo. You know, the really, really powerful one that if they play Concordant Crossroads, they just win automatically. Or Rhythm of the Wilds, or anything that gives those cards haste. When they're about to swing at you and they go, aha, I have infinite creatures, herder, you go, oh, infinite creatures? That's funny. This 2-mana card says infinite damage. That's really funny. You thought your cards did things. No. My cards do things. Your cards don't get to do things. So that is the end of our removal package. These are the ways we are going to be protecting ourselves from death. And notice that just about every one of them is an instant or a sorcery. And that matters because the way we are going to be winning the game is through incremental burn. We are playing a spell slinger deck, so let's go ahead and talk about what each of these cards do. Unruly Catapult can tap to deal 1 damage to each opponent, and if you cast an instant or sorcery spell, then you can untap the Unruly Catapult. Gutter Snipe will deal 2 damage to every opponent if you cast an instant or sorcery spell. Crackling Perimeter says that you can tap or untap a gate you control to deal 1 damage to each opponent. This is our alternate win con. Thermo Alchemist can deal 1 damage to every opponent when you tap it, and if you cast an instant or sorcery, you can untap it. Pink Horror deals 2 damage to any target when you cast an instant or sorcery spell. It's also 2 color for our deck's shenanigans. When it dies, create 2/2/2 blue and red demon horror tokens that have just 1/2 of the pink horror ability. Fiery Inscription does the ring tempt, which is irrelevant text for us. All that matters is that when you cast an instant or sorcery spell, deal 2 damage to every opponent. Erebor Flamesmith, when you cast an instant or sorcery, deal 1 damage to each opponent. And then in our 2-mana slot, well, it's 5 mana, but 2-mana pip slot for Niv Mizzet to care about, Tor Wauki the Younger. If another source you control would deal non-combat damage to a permanent or a player, it deals that damage +1 instead, which amplifies all of our other burn cards. And whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, Tor Wauki the Younger deals 2 damage to any target. This, of course, means that it is already dealing 2 to everything, but it's making Fiery Inscription hit for 3, it's making Erebor hit for 2, it's making Gutter Snipe hit for 3. It's doing a lot of work, and because it is searchable with our NIV Mizzet Commander, this card is likely going to touch the board every game that we are playing. But in every game we are playing, we need to make sure the board is clear. We are not a creature-based deck, so we need to be getting creatures off of the board and away from us. And to facilitate that, this deck is running 3 board wipes that all have 2 mana combinations. We have Find and Finality. You can take 2 creature cards from your graveyard, put them in your hand, or you can put 2 1/1 counters on a creature and then give all creatures -4/-4. Then we have Solar Blaze. Each creature deals damage to itself equal to its power. Now, remember, we did have cards in our removal section that allow us to manipulate the attack and toughness of creatures, like Agony Warp. So you can use Agony Warp on your commander, make him have 3 power less, and then cast your Solar Blaze so that your commander does not kill itself in the fiery wrath of the Solar Blaze. Then you have Kaya's Wrath, blow up all creatures and then gain life equal to the number of creatures you controlled that were destroyed this way. These are all 2 mana pip board wipes, so our commander cares about them greatly. But I've shown you how we're going to ramp. I've shown you how we're going to win. There's one other thing I got to show you, though, that's kind of really sort of important. Like, really, really important. I haven't told you how we're abusing our commander's ability. All I've said is he's a pretty cool draw spell when you play him once. So how are we playing him a lot of times? This is where we get into the deck's blink section. 9 cards that can all blink our commander, many of them being 2 mana pipped cards. Let's talk about each of them. Momentary Blink, exile a creature you controlled and put it back onto the board, which means this is just a draw 5 to 10 cards effect every time. We'll blink our commander to refresh our hand. OG the Exquisite Blade. If he enters the battlefield, gain 2 and scry 2. When you cast your second spell each turn, we are a spell slinger deck, so that'll happen a lot. We can blink one of our creatures and then refresh our hand. Vanish into Memory. Exile a creature. Draw cards equal to its power, and then at the beginning of your upkeep, return it to the battlefield. And if you do, discard cards equal to the creature's toughness. So we are blinking this and getting a wheel effect as well as getting the draw of our commander. Then we have Infuse with Vitality. If our commander dies, this will just auto-revive it. And then, of course, we get its ability again. Justicar's Portal can blink our commander, so can Scroll Shift and Slip on the Ring. Scroll Shift also has a nifty draw attached to it as well. Then we have Pegasus Guardian. We can pay 2 to blink any creature we have. And then we can play the Pegasus later if we want, but that's probably not going to happen most games. Then we have Abuelo Ancestral Echo. He's got flying in Ward 2, and we can pay 3 to exile a creature and then return it to the battlefield at the beginning of the next end step. So people are going to have to get rid of this very, very quickly, since we can just use this to repeatedly blink our commander and keep on refreshing our hand with new and powerful spells. Abuelo is a house that this deck is very willing to be built on. But I lied when I said this was the last section we needed to talk about. Oh no. We have one more thing to talk about. If incremental damage can't win us the game, we have 2 oops, surprise, I win cards. They are the Death to the Deathless card, which is, of course, more inexpensive now because the new printing of it is amazing. Each opponent loses 2 times X life, and you gain life equal to the life lost this way. This costs Orzhov twice and then X, so if you pay 5 into it, everybody burns for 2. If you pay 6 into it, everybody burns for 4, so on and so forth. This is what our Omnath can store the mana for. This is why we have access to Baldur's Gate, which I'll show you in a bit. This card is absolutely flat out amazing at turning our opponents into just emaciated husks when we cast it. Debt to the Deathless is a wonderful, wonderful surprise I win card. And if you're playing any deck that cares about life gain like Aristocrats, you should probably run this in there too. It's just phenomenal. Then we have Glaive of the Guild Pact. Equipped creature gets 1/0 for every gate you control, then gets Vigilance and Menace. So this is a way that we can go, hey, you know how we were a spell slinger deck trying to do incremental damage and that guy over there is doing life gain? Yeah, fuck that guy in particular. I'm giving a dragon a sword and going whoosh. You're just going whoosh. You're going to bonk them on the head with a sword. You're not even here to use the sharp part of the sword. NIV Mizzet is just going to bonk them. And then they die with 21 commander damage. Very, very easy. Very simple because, of course, commander damage, 21 is all you need, and we can easily get 21 commander damage using the Glaive of the Guild Pact. And artifacts are harder to remove than creatures, so even if our commander is dying a lot, which people might not want to let happen, because then we can just recast it and get hand resets. All in all, Glaive of the Guild Pact is a wonderful card. If you're playing a Gates deck with a commander that has evasion, please put Glaive in. It is a beautiful way to close out a game, and it's way funnier than Maze's End. I'm not killing you with Maze's End. I'm gonna hit you with the end of this sword. Then we have our land section. Basic lands, we have 12 of them, with 3 of them being forests and 3 being plains due to the higher amount of white and green in the deck. Then, of course, we have 5 fetching lands, Terramorphic and Evolving Wilds and Escape Tunnel being all the exact same card, Promising Vein and Shire Terrace being able to grab 1 of any basic land. If you are wanting to upgrade this deck outside of its budget, you can increase this to have all the panoramas, which would add another $1 to the deck. If you are trying to go well out of budget, you can just put, fetch lands in this place. And then we have, of course, the gates, the most expensive part of the entire deck. Oh boy. Cynic, Dimir, Golgari, Gruul, Rakdos, Izzet, Boros, Azorius, Selesnya, and Orzhov guild gates. Because, of course, we have to have every single guild represented if we are playing with the Guild Pack. Then we have Gateway Plaza, which can add a mana of any color, and it comes into play tapped. Then we have the Black Dragon Gate. Then we have Citadel Gate, Manor Gate, Cliff Gate, Heap Gate, Gaunt Gate, Sea Gate, and Thran Portal. These are all cards that can tap for any particular basic land type you choose, except for, the Gaunt Gate we talked about. It enters the battlefield untapped, and all your gates enter the battlefield untapped as long as this card is on the board, and it can add a mana of any color that a gate you control could produce. Gaunt Gate is pushing you very, very far in this deck. And then we have, of course, Baldur's Gate. Add X mana of any one color, where X is the number of gates you control. Baldur's Gate is basically giving us all the mana we need to burn people with debt to the debt list. It is a fantabulous card, and I adore it greatly. Having Nykthos for $1 that cares about ramping is just perfectly in line with the ways I want to win games over and above anything else. So Baldur's Gate is a 10 out of 10 card. Now, for budgetary reasons, we did not include a command tower or an exotic orchard. I know it sounds kind of weird, but they were a few pennies more expensive than everything else in the deck, and they would have put us even further into the $16 range, which is not the point of the challenge. If you start hitting that range, you're well outside of what the parameters are. If you are wanting to upgrade the removal package, you can grab more efficient removal like Assassin's Trophy and Abrupt Decay, cards that, as long as they cost the 2 mana pips that the deck cares about, that is all you need to worry with. Lightning Helix would also be an interesting card to put in as well for, it's just a wonderful kill card. If you're upgrading the ramp package, of course, Nature's Lore, Farseek, all that kind of stuff would normally be great if we were running, not a Gates package. But since we are running a Gates package, you could just put in more cards like Crop Rotation that are grabbing specific gates out of your deck, and then add some recurability for those gates in case somebody tries to generous gift your Gond or your Baldur's Gate. It can happen. Trading out things like Letter of Acceptance for things like Arcane Signet, of course, lowering the mana curve of your deck. The NIV Mizzets will always stay. There's never a time where those are going to be traded out. And then for our draw package, of course, there's more efficient draw we can find in these color combinations if we are doing that. So you, of course, can increase that. Or you can just go straight up degenerate and replace all of this draw package with more blink cards, especially blink cards that happen to have multiple color pips like Vanish into Memory or OG. That way they can be grabbable with NIV Mizzet, and you have way more ways to get cards out of your deck. Note, though, that will make your deck more reliant on your commander, and you won't have draw prior to when your commander comes out on curve. So be kind of careful with that, but it's not the worst thing in the world. Burn package, I don't think you're going to need to change all that much. I would take some of the tap guys out in favor of like Kessig Flame Breather. Unfortunately, that card is like $1 or $2 for some reason, despite being a common. I guess it's just part of enough infinite combos that it matters. Also, if you are increasing the budget of the deck, you can try to find things like Sorcerer class that can go in here instead, because Sorcerer class does the game-winning effect that you're looking for, but it also happens to have 2 mana pips. It just happens to be way more expensive than what a budget deck like this can grab. But with that all said, that is NIV Mizzet Reborn. I actually have this deck coming in the mail so I can play this over at my LGS, because I really want to play some big mana Spellslinger, and that is exactly what this guy is doing. Also, it's going to be funny to have me on one side of the table with NIV Mizzet as a $15 Spellslinger, and my girlfriend at the other side of the table with Omnath Spellslinger, and just there's going to be 2 other people in our games caught between our madness as we're just throwing haymakers that just result in collateral damage. That's the other reason I built this deck. I wanted something I could do that with, because I thought it would be absolutely hilarious. But as always, everybody, thank you all for watching. I appreciate every single one of you. Thank you for watching my videos. Thank you for getting us closer and closer to 3,000 subscribers. I am just floored that this channel is doing as well as it is. So thank you, every single one of you. Also, if you want to rep the channel, there is this playmat that you can find in the description, in the merch store section of my description. It is, you know, if you've watched my main channel, this is my character fighting the Neckoin, which is a representation of really cringy cryptocurrency and meme coins that I've made fun of a lot on my other channels. So if you really do want to support my channel and you don't have the recurrable income for something like Patreon or becoming a channel member, and by the way, channel members do get to see videos early anytime a video is put on my channel before it has been released to the general public. Channel members get to see it first. But before you get to do any of that, woo, that's the wrong screen. If you want to just do a one-time support of my channel, you can pick up this playmat in the description as well. Again, guys, thank you very much for watching my stuff. I appreciate every single one of you, and keep on with the deck suggestions. I am going to keep on working on my own decks and stuff that people are suggesting in there. I've finished most of the milestone decks that I was like, I need to get these out of my system. I've got the Sliver deck out of my system. I've got the CDH deck out of my system. I got the Infect deck out of my system. I'm good. I'm ready to make more decks about just really hot anime women in Magic the Gathering. Anyways, thank you all for being here. As always, insert end video tagline here. Hey, I just quickly want to give a thank you to all of my wonderful patrons who keep this show running. YouTube and Twitch are a pretty bumpy ride at the best of times, and the stability a Patreon provides me is worth more than I can say here. I'd also like to thank each and every one of my $20 and up patrons here, and they would be Red Joker, Blitzkrieg, Cameron, Dren, Jemshin, Smiling DM, Poundini, Mabbity Babbity, Naomi, Isaac, Agamotto, Jordan, Ravi, Giuni, Kiratorian, Prisma, all of you, I'm not saying that part, and Starlight. And finally, thank you to everyone else that helps keep this channel alive. While you're here, why not check out another video? And thank you for watching.